The moment I found the check stub crumpled in the trash, something inside me twisted. It was late afternoon, and the Florida sun blazed through the blinds, casting golden lines across the tiled kitchen floor. Our home in Sarasota, modest but well-loved, carried the quiet lull of a late Sunday. My fingers brushed over the paper while throwing out coffee grounds, but it wasn't until I flattened the wrinkled check that my heart began to pound. $18,000. Hey, Robert and Elena Garcia. Memo, family support, love you always. My breath caught. I reread it twice before my legs wobbled, and I sank to the floor beside the trash can. My husband, Daniel, had just received his annual performance bonus from the medical software company where he worked as a senior analyst. For weeks, we'd counted the days, reassured by that single hope: the bonus would cover our overdue mortgage payment, buy us time, keep the wolves, aka the bank, at bay. And just like that, he gave it away. All of it. By the time Daniel returned from the hardware store with a smug grin and 2 gallons of paint, I was trembling with disbelief. "How's Ivory Dove?" he asked cheerfully, hoisting the paint. "I thought we'd finally do the nursery this week." I stared at him. "You gave the bonus to your parents?" His face faltered for a fraction of a second. He set the paint down with a thud, then straightened his posture as if preparing for a courtroom defense. "They needed it, Anna. My dad's car died. They've been struggling since his heart surgery, and you know Mom's still recovering from her fall. But we needed it," I said, rising to my feet. "That was our mortgage. That was the roof over our heads. How could you not even talk to me about it?" Daniel's jaw clenched. "They're family. I owe them everything. And I'm not your family?" That question hung between us, heavy as thunderclouds forming over the gulf. Our marriage hadn't been perfect, whose is, but we'd survived 3 years of lean budgets, miscarriages, and a hurricane evacuation. I'd thought we were a team, patching our lives together like the mosaic art I sold at local craft fairs. But this was betrayal, not just of finances, but of trust. Later that night, after hours of silence, I walked down the palm-shaded sidewalk of our neighborhood, gripping my sweater tighter as the air turned cool. I passed retirees sipping wine on porches and college kids blasting reggaeton from backyards. Life went on around me. But inside, I was frozen. Back home, I found Daniel asleep on the couch. No apology. No explanation beyond duty to his parents. It was a silence louder than any argument. I stared at our wedding photo on the wall, Daniel's arm around me, my smile so wide it made my eyes squint. Back then, I believed we could weather anything. But this felt different. This felt like abandonment disguised as nobility. In the dim light, I opened the mortgage statement again. $3,800 past due. Foreclosure warning enclosed. And then I knew, if I wanted to survive this, I had to stop waiting for Daniel to choose us. I had to start choosing me. The next morning, I woke up with the kind of clarity that only arrives after a night of sleepless chaos. Daniel was gone, presumably to work, though I hadn't bothered to ask. I moved through our house like a stranger in a museum of memories, running my hand along the breakfast bar we built together, pausing at the dent in the hallway where we dropped the crib. All once meaningful. Now, painful. I poured myself a cup of coffee and sat on the back patio, the humid Florida breeze rustling the palm trees in the yard. The tang of salt and jasmine hung in the air, so familiar it ached. Sarasota had always been our place, quiet, artsy, with just enough chaos in hurricane season to remind us we were alive. Now, I wasn't sure what part of this life belonged to me anymore. I opened my laptop and stared at the blinking cursor on the bank's foreclosure warning. 1 missed payment, maybe 2, was manageable. But we were at 4. I called the bank and asked about hardship options. The woman on the other end had the voice of someone who'd rehearsed empathy. "I'm sorry, Anna. Without immediate payment, the house will move to pre-foreclosure status by the 15th. 11 days. I paced for hours, calling Daniel twice. Straight to voicemail. No message. By noon, I was in my studio, the garage-turned-workshop that had become my sanctuary. My mosaics were scattered across the workbench, glass tiles, shells, fragments of broken plates, all arranged in half-finished designs. I picked up a piece I'd started months ago, a flamingo poised in front of a Sarasota sunset, vibrant with pinks and fiery oranges. I remembered why I started mosaics after my miscarriage. It was about rebuilding something beautiful from what was broken. That afternoon, I listed 10 new pieces on Etsy and messaged a local art gallery in downtown Sarasota, one I'd always admired but never dared to approach. Would you consider featuring handmade mosaics from a local artist? I hit send before I could second-guess myself. A response came an hour later, bring a few pieces in tomorrow. Let's talk. It wasn't a solution, but it was something. A crack of light. When Daniel came home that night, he looked worn, guilt etched deep in the lines around his eyes. He held out a pizza box like a peace offering, but I didn't take it. We need to talk, I said. I know, he replied quietly. I'm not mad that you wanted to help your parents. I get it. But you made a decision for our family without me, and now we're drowning. That's not love, Daniel. That's control. He sat at the kitchen table, silent. I've contacted the bank. I'm figuring things out. Alone, if I have to. His head dropped into his hands. I didn't think it through. I've always been the one they rely on. And what about me? I asked. When do I get to rely on you? That night, I slept in the guest room. Not out of spite, but because I needed space to hear myself think, without his apologies, without his regrets. I was beginning to realize something powerful. I had stopped dreaming for myself. Somewhere along the way, I had given up my voice in the name of keeping peace. But the storm was already here. And maybe I didn't need peace right now. Maybe I needed power. By the end of the week, the gallery had sold 2 of my pieces. 2. For the first time in months, I cried tears that didn't taste like despair. They were warm, sharp with disbelief and quiet joy, but they came from me, not some version of myself waiting for permission to feel proud. I stood in the gallery that Friday, surrounded by local artists and collectors sipping wine under pendant lights. The air buzzed with music and laughter, but I was quiet, grounded in a space I'd once only dreamed of belonging to. My flamingo mosaic had taken center wall. A little red sticker below it whispered sold. It didn't fix everything. But it was a start. That night, Daniel met me outside the gallery. He was holding a bouquet of orange orchids, the same kind from our wedding in Naples. I saw your flamingo, he said softly. It's beautiful. He stopped himself. You've always been more than I could see. I waited. I've been thinking, he continued. I want to try couples counseling. Not because I expect forgiveness, but because I need to understand why I thought I could carry this marriage alone while pushing you out of it. I studied him. His face was open, raw. No justifications. No shields. I'm not sure what's left of us, I admitted. But I know what's left of me. And I like her. He smiled faintly. I like her, too. We didn't hold hands. We didn't kiss. We just stood side by side under the swaying palms, the night air thick with the scent of sea salt and redemption. In the weeks that followed, I found strength and momentum. I took on commissioned pieces for beachside restaurants and resorts, began teaching mosaic workshops at a local art co-op, and started a side blog that shared stories of starting over. I called it Shards and Sunshine. People resonated with it. Not just because of the art, but because of the honesty. Daniel and I went to counseling. It wasn't easy. There were tears, defensiveness, long silences. But we also found laughter and old memories and moments of startling clarity in the wreckage. He started listening, not just hearing me, but seeing me. I stopped waiting for him to change and started changing my own patterns of silence and self-sacrifice. As for the mortgage, I negotiated a hardship arrangement with the bank. I sold 3 more pieces in a gallery show and made enough to cover the backlog. We kept the house. But more importantly, I kept myself. One Saturday, as the Gulf breeze drifted through our freshly painted nursery, the ivory dove walls still smelling faintly of hope, I sat beside my newest piece. It wasn't perfect. No mosaic ever is. It was a scene of our home under palm trees, tiny fragments of shell and glass catching the light. It told the story of a woman who nearly lost everything, but found herself in the ruins. And in that, there was peace. If you liked it, subscribe to the channel and enjoy these other amazing stories.